In our previous video, we saw several different kinds of errors that could have led to our trial balance not matching. Considering we avoided all of them, then our trial balance balanced. So that's a great thing, hooray! But that still does not mean that our trial balanced is error-free. There are several kinds of possible errors in our trial balance and in our books of accounts that, even though existing, could still lead to our trial balance balancing. So let's check them out in this video. So possible errors in the trial balance when the accounts have balanced. So the first of all, we have error of commission. So error of commission is when you have the correct amount added to your debit and credit sides. That too on the correct sides, as in the on your debit side and your credit side, but to the wrong accounts of the same class. For example, my expense class over here, rent. I paid rent of $30, but I forgot to add $30 to my rent account. Instead of that, I by mistake added that $30 to another expense class, to another expense of the same class expense, which is wages. So this won't affect my balance because both have a debit balance, but it's still an error, which is known as the error of commission, when you add the amount to the wrong account. Moving on to the next kind of error, error of complete reversal. So this is when you add the correct amount to the correct account, but to the wrong side of each account. This will again not affect the balance because there is a credit entry and debit entry of equal amounts, but this will lead to you having wrong balances. For example, over here, I took a bank loan of $70 and my bank loan account should have showed it on the credit side, but instead it put it on the debit side. Similarly, the other side of the account, the other side of the entry, in the bank account, it should have been a debit entry as the bank is receiving the $70 from the bank loan. But instead, it went on the credit side. This won't impact the matching because there's an equal amount of debit and credit, but this is an error which will lead to the balances figure being wrong. Error of omission. This type of error needs no example. It just means that you forgot the whole transaction. That means you made no entry, no debit entry or credit entry. That's why they just cancel out each other because you forgot the whole entry, but still lead to a balance being incorrect. Then you have the error of original entry. This means that you added the incorrect figures. For example, I bought this pencil for $100, but I wrote it as only $80 in my original entry as an expense of $80 on both my accounts. So this is just an incorrect figure. This will lead to my balances not having the correct figures, but still balancing out. So this was error of original entry. Moving on to error of principal. Over here, in error of principal, you added the correct amount to the correct side, but to the wrong account of different classes. So it's similar to error of commission, but over here, the classes of accounts are different. From which I mean that instead of putting the debit entry under assets, you by mistake put it under expenses, which won't affect the matching because they both have debit balances, but this will impact the figure. For example, over here, so this is the correct entry, the first one. I spent $5 on my car for repair or maintenance or whatever. But instead of noting that under machinery expense, I put that under the asset account, which is the machinery account, which will then overstate my assets of machinery and understate my expense of machinery expense. Then we have compensating errors. These are very simple. These are just kinds of errors that cancel out each other. For example, in one of the accounts I had to make a debit entry of $1,500, but I only made a debit entry of $1,400. For example, when purchase of a new machine. But at the same time, I had to make a credit entry of, say, $750, but I only made a credit entry of $650. So I also understated my credit side due to some other entry. So this error, which is an underestimation of the debit side, and this error, which understates our credit side, both balance down each other, and that's why our balances match. So this is a compensating error. So these are 6 kinds of errors that we saw that will not impact the matching but are still errors and will affect the balance and our financial statements. These are error of commission, error of complete reversal, error of omission, error of original entry, principal, and compensating error. What is the significance of these kinds of errors? You are saying the balance is matching, so why do we have a problem with these? It's because our trial balance has 2 purposes. Not just arithmetical accuracy, but also it should be useful in preparing our financial statements. And if I make those kinds of errors, my figures will be incorrect, which will mean my financial statements will have incorrect figures, which can impact several things in the business, including legal, because now your financial statements are not correctly showing your business's position. At the same time, also your decision making. For example, let's look at this simple error of principle. Over here, due to this error, I'm overstating my assets of machinery and I'm understating my expense, which can impact my profits, because now my profit will be shown as being more than what it is because I'm understating my expense. At the same time, my assets are being also shown as more than what they are, which is also incorrect. So these were different type of errors that we saw. Some that affect our matching, affect the matching of a balance, and some that don't. So avoiding all of these will lead to our bookkeeping being both arithmetically correct as also correct in the amounts which we have added to the correct sides. Thank you.